Welcome everyone to the next session for the 2020 SOFA Summit. I'm thrilled to introduce our next speaker all the way from Chicago. It is Ramez from the IRA Club. Ramez, how you doing today?
Good, Mark. Thank you for the quick introduction.
Yeah, of course. We really appreciate you coming on here and spending the time to educate our audience. So one of the big issues and hurdles that a lot of our investors face is where are they going to find the seed or the capital to purchase rental properties. Most folks are going to be using funds from their checking account. Maybe they're going to liquefy some of their stock portfolio. But what a lot of investors don't know is that they could actually utilize their retirement funds to buy real estate. And that entire process, it's actually a lot simpler than most folks would realize as long as you have a good team in place. And that's exactly what Ramez and his team does every single day. And that's what he's going to go over and share with us today.
Mark, thank you for those kind words. Honestly, you always speak highly of the IRA Club, and I always thank you and your team and the Memphis group. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah, share your screen and take it away.
Got it. Thanks, bud. All right, just pop this up. Here we go. Give me 1 second. And can you see it?
We're live. We're good to go.
All right, here we go. Thank you, Ramez Fakoria. Again, thank you, Mark, for the introduction. I'm the VP here at IRA Club. I'm just going to quickly go over the agenda, not too much into it, but quick introduction. What is a self-directed IRA? The history of self-directed IRAs. We want to talk a little bit about the past, present, and the future of the issues that we have to face, with our retirement accounts as Americans. The problem, as I mentioned, with America's future. In our industry, we like to call them artificial restrictions, the things that you don't hear about the traditional brokerage firms. The difference between the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA, and why you might want to consider now more than ever a Roth conversion. We feel in our that basically taxes are actually on sale right now, and I think that there's only one direction, and that's going to go up, and I feel that's going to happen right in the next year or so. Now, partnering your IRA, a lot of people do not utilize this tool or even know about this tool, but it's a great way to maximize your IRA. Alternative investments, so things that you need to be looking at, primarily diversifying one's retirement account. And we get this question often: how much does this cost? Versus a traditional brokerage firms like the Vanguard, Schwab's, and of the world, versus a self-directed IRA custodian such as the IRA Club. And for the ones who stay with us till the very end, we're going to be offering something called the IRA Club Investors Kit to the Memphis Investment Group. So let's just jump right into it. One of the first questions that we hear quite often is where is a self-directed IRA? Is it a type of IRA? And the fact of the matter is, it's just a marketing tool that we use in our industry. All IRAs are self-directed. And the two most common, which we're going to go about a little bit later, is the traditional Roth. But one thing that we just want you to keep in mind is 90% of retirement accounts are governed by the same set of rules and regulations. I'm talking about 401ks, 403bs, the IRA, and so on. So the Roth is actually that 10% factor. But like I said, we're going to get into that a little bit later. The benefits of self-directing. Number one, diversification, allowing you to diversify outside of the norm of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And I personally think that this is the greatest gift and the most underutilized gift is tax savings, allowing you to capitalize on tax-free gains. Better yet, tax deferred or tax-free. So, and allowing you to invest in what you know best. That is the most important thing. Self-directing, as long as you do your due diligence, you do your homework, minimize risk. And I feel that with Memphis and IRA Club, we take a lot of that out, the risk, the calculated risks out for you. So the calculated risks. So diversification, that is the first and most important. And if you take a look at this, and I like the illustrations I have on the bottom, because right now we're in a pandemic, and we all know that the market has a pattern. It always goes like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Well-diversified portfolios from primarily investors who are within the 32% tax bracket or higher. If you take a look at it, a third of their portfolio, almost 30%, is involved in real estate. Okay. Also, pre-IPOs, private companies, private placements, the majority of their retirement portfolio is not stuck just in the market, okay? So I want to take a little bit of the, dive into that just a little bit deeper. And everybody knows the dot-com bubble of 2000, and it was caused by 20 overpriced, tech stocks that literally shattered the stock market. It caused home sales to drop, construction slowed down, and the American people just literally stopped spending because they were afraid. But the most important thing I want you to take a look at is the recovery time. So for example, back in 2000, if you made an investment in January, and if you look at the Dow Jones clocked at a little over 11,351, it took 5.4 years to recover. That is a long time, for anybody, not just, God forbid, if you are a person who is at the age of 55 that was looking to retire, you lost probably a third of your retirement funds, and you couldn't retire by the time you were 60 years old. You actually had to wait those extra 2 or 3 years to recover your losses. We all know the Great Recession of 2008. That was caused due to, overzealous mortgage lending due to banks. I mean, literally, if you had a pulse, and Mark, you know this better than anybody, if you had a pulse and you walked inside a bank, I mean, all you had to do is have a decent credit score and you could walk out, with a mortgage. And what did that really do? It affected the entire stock market. It caused prices to plummet and construction to slow down. Once again, people were afraid and stopped spending. But let's look at this recovery time. So if you made an investment back in May of 2007, that took 6.7 years to recover, even worse than the last one. Now, we all know we're in this pandemic, and I'll be honest with you, I personally think that the market's very inflated. I think that's due to the fact that, the government just poured in $4.4 trillion. So we really, we don't know where this is going quite yet, but I have a feeling it's going to stay in that roller coaster ride, up and down for the next couple of years. And one thing that people do not take into consideration is the rental market. The importance, when we talk about diversifying one's portfolio, is having that hard, tangible asset is just as important. Now, I'm not saying the market's bad. It's important to have a portion of your portfolio in the market, but it's also important that you have a portion of it in real estate. The rental market has steadily gone up in the last 20 years. And I wanted to showcase, if you could look from 2006, 7, 8, right when the pandemic hit, 2008, 2009 actually, the market steadily increased in rent. So it is important to understand that. Now, what is a self-directed IRA? A self-directed IRA, which is the individual retirement account, allows you to invest for your future, okay? But the gift, and Dennis Blitz, president of our company, calls it a gift, and it really, really is a gift. But the reason why it was introduced back in September 2nd, 1974, was simply to address two issues. Number one, pensions, okay? As we all know, everybody's living a lot longer these days. Even back in 1974, or when they first introduced it, the Treasury Department actually was looking at that and saying, companies are no longer or minimizing pensions. They can't afford to have them because people are living a lot longer. And the second reason is obviously Social Security. Now with Social Security, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that. And I'm going to show you some really shocking retirement stats. So the average retirement account has only $22,000 in the US. I'm talking about all retirement accounts. I'm talking about IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, TSPs, HSAs. I'm talking about all qualified retirement accounts. So by 2025, we're talking about 4.5 years from now, for every 2 workers, okay, equal 1 retiree, versus back in 1935 when Social Security first started, there were 12 workers for every 1 retiree. Now, why is that? It was because of the life expectancy back in 1935. If you take a look at this, men averaged the age of 55 versus women at 62. So when did you qualify for a retirement account? It was 62. So most people passed away by the time you even worked 20, 30 years of your life and you were ready to retire. Didn't make a difference. Because if you look at back in 1935, if you made it to the age of 65 or above, there were only 6.7 million Americans that lived at 65 or more. Versus today, if you look at the bottom right side corner, The U.S. Census Bureau actually stated back in July 1st of 2019, they do this every 10 years, it said that there are 54 million Americans that have made it to the age of 65 or higher. 54. That's 8 more people versus back in 1935's, 1935's 6.7. So that is a crazy ratio to take a look at. It also further lets me know that Social Security's age of qualifying at 62 and being able to pull at 65, I believe it's going to go up 2 to 3 years, and they have to do that, okay? The other thing we want to take a look at is people over the age of 55, 28% of them don't even have a retirement account, okay? Look at the bottom left side, 39% of the workforce still support their parents for that simple reason. And that's only going to get worse because 42% of millennials haven't even begun a retirement account. They just live in the here and now. So I just feel that Social Security is going to have to change, or it's no longer going to exist. And the average American only gets $1,500 from Social Security. So that's pretty staggering. But let's look at the past leading into today. What is that problem? The problem is who's really capitalizing on your IRA or your 401k. And most people don't even know this, but 97% of Americans leave their retirement funds in only 3 places: banks, insurance companies, and mutual funds. It's actually about $29 trillion. In fact, most of America's wealth is actually sitting in retirement accounts, next to also the second, real estate. So as I said, the first to capitalize are banks. And how did they do so? And what they did was they offered a CD. And let's actually take a deeper dive into this. And let's just look at pre-pandemic, okay? The markets, did this 11-year bull ride straight up. Everything was going great. Goldman and Sachs was offering the best CD as of July 2020. So not that long ago. You're talking about 9 months ago. 9 months ago. If you did a minimum deposit of $10,000, you got 2.15%. So let me think about that. If I gave the bank $10,000 of my hard-earned money to make $215, I might argue and say, are you that lazy that you can't pick up an extra shift at work, or walk into your closet, find a pair of shoes that you don't want and sell them on eBay? I would never give a bank $10,000, $50,000, or $100,000 to make 2.15% returns. But it's gotten worse. Worse. If you look now, the CD rates are, whether it's 1, 3, or 5%, it's at 1%. I'm sorry, 1, 3, or 5 years, it's at 1%. So please, for the love of God, do not ever consider putting your retirement account in a CD. Now, this one's a little bit interesting. Insurance companies, okay? Insurance companies actually spend lots of money targeting companies that don't offer pensions. And really, the reason why they do this is because, number one, first of all, they're the most profitable. They have the largest commission base. And the funny thing is, insurance agents are clueless. Most of them are clueless what are even offered in these packages. They're kind of treated a little bit more like salespeople. But in my personal opinion, and once again, most people, I want to say 90% of people do not realize this, annuities are not government issued. So what does that mean? It means that your retirement funds are not FDIC insured. So God forbid, okay, I'm not talking about a bigger company like MetLife, but the middle of the pack, or, the lower firms that, are not as well or as strong. If they go under, basically your entire retirement account, everything that you worked for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years basically goes out the door. So I need you to keep that in the back of your mind. And lastly, you're no longer in control of your funds. So I just mentioned to you, and I do apologize, I just mentioned to you that insurance companies pay big money, but there's a certain age group that they go after. And that's primarily between the ages of 50 and 60, because that's the best way or the best opportunity that they have to basically capitalize. And between the ages of 50 and 60, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's roughly between 100 and 120,000 on average. That's it. 100 to 120,000. That is what you worked for. And we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper, but they call it the immediate fixed income annuity. My apologies. So they'll start off with a simple question. Do you have a pension? And your company doesn't offer it. They say it's very simple. All you have to do is deposit your 401k funds into the insurance company, and in return, we're going to promise you that we're going to give you a monthly fixed payment. And they'll tell you you could start immediately, and guess what? It's for the rest of your life. So you don't have to worry about the market risk anymore. And a lot of people are actually really considering them, but it's a double-edged sword. Let's backtrack and let me tell you why. Because I feel like the disadvantages heavily outweigh the advantages, okay? Number one, you lose control of the asset once you fund it, okay? What does that mean? That means you're locked into a monthly distribution every single month. So you can never grow your retirement any more than what it is. You're stuck with that same payment. And in time, even a very small inflation, I'm talking about 1.5%, and they usually say the average is about 3%, but let's just talk about 1.5%, will erode your fixed dollars. So think about that, okay? Think about this. If you think that you're gonna get a fixed income annuity at the same where it's at right now, okay, you just retired, let's say at the age of 60, you think if you live until 80, that money that you're getting is going to be the same? No, it's not going to be. You can't survive off of it, even with a Social Security payment, let's say at the age of 62 or 63 or 64 or 65. But this is actually my personal opinion where it gets worse, okay? Let's say your life ends prematurely. Let's just say you get up, great day, took a shower, you're on your way to work, and you get in this horrific car accident and you pass away. Ultimately, the insurance company always wins because they no longer have to pay you. And here's the worst part again, your beneficiaries don't even receive $1. Think about that. You work not only for yourself, but for your family, your kids, your spouse, and they won't receive a single penny. Now, because remember, I told you they typically target you between the ages of 50 and 60, and a lot of people realize that they have made a mistake just for that simple reason. There's high surrender charges. They're typically between 10 and 15%. And if you did it before the age of 59 and a half, you got to pay that 10% penalty. So you're talking about potentially losing 25% of your retirement. And if you just simply Google it, go online, go to a fixed income annuity calculator, and you're going to see that the monthly returns are much lower than you expect. Typically, it's around 5%. So if you're taking a look at this chart, and let's just say I just told you most Americans between the ages of 50 and 60 have somewhere between 100 and 125 in their retirement. You're trying to tell me that if I gave you $100,000, that you're going to get $421 for the rest of my life? Are you serious? Do you think that you could live off of that?
That's ridiculous.
But you're laughing, but we get these questions all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the reason why you're laughing is because of the gentleman that you actually introduced me to 3 years ago, which we're actually going to do a case study about right now. So I'm not sure if you remember Robert H. He gave me a call about three years back, and I'll never forget this. Robert H. says to me, you know, Ramez, better yet, you said, Mark, can you please, sorry, Mark, you said, Ramez, can you do me a favor? I'd like to introduce you to Robert H. He has a 401k, and he's thinking about a fixed income annuity because his company does not offer a pension. And I said, okay, I always like to start with a simple question. What are your retirement goals? Assuming your kids are no longer in school, they're married, it's just you and your wife, your house is paid off, where would you like to live comfortably? And he said, I would like to keep, or better yet, maintain the same lifestyle that I had. And I said, what's that number? He said, 5,000. I said, okay, great. You have 477,000, just a little over that. And that means you would need to have at least 60,000, but he needs to withdraw. Remember, a 401k, the same set of rules and regulations as a traditional IRA, which means he would have to pull out 85,000 a year to maintain that same lifestyle. That only lasts him about 6 years, okay? He's at 62 and he told me he wanted to retire within the next 2 to 3 years. So I suggested something else. I said, why don't you go back to Mark and let him, with the 477,000 that you have in your 401k, let us create your own self-directed pension. So Mark comes back to me and says, you know what, this is great. He loves the idea. Let's break down now the returns. He puts them in a hard asset, a tangible asset, a turnkey investment. He buys 4 homes. And now here's the thing. Between 8 and 9.1% returns, 8.25, those were his actual hard, we're talking about hard returns. I'm talking about after vacancy, after the property management, after insurance. Mark, am I missing anything? Or is that pretty much it?
After future maintenance, after CapEx, after
Thank you.
all expenses.
All
Correct.
These are the hard numbers. And I'm not even including, this is not even including the appreciation. So these are the numbers that I could physically see going back and forth from the banking transactions, okay?
Right, this is just purely cash flow.
Purely cash flow. This is Mark putting the returns, the funds back into the IRA club, the custodian. The IRA club is a custodian. So let's break down the numbers. He said he wanted to, I'm just assuming that and I'm trying to do the comparison, everything that I told you about an annuity. If he has $477,000 at 5%, that's going to give him roughly just a little under $2,000. At 62, he does qualify for retirement. Now, as I mentioned, the average, or if you do qualify, it's $1,500. So that puts him at just a little under $3,500 versus creating his own pension. Now, if you took the total, okay, was 8.62% returns on 437. So not even the full 477. It was only 437, which gave him a monthly return of $3,100. And once again, he qualified for insurance. It's at 4627. Now I asked him, is this a number that you could live with? If you could see, I gave him a straight path, not this windy road that he had to basically possibly work for the next 5 to 6 or 7 years of his life. But here's the thing, Robert didn't retire at 62, he retired at 65 because he figured it out on his own. Remember, if you're looking at the top, his 401k at 477, he rolled that over into a traditional IRA. He purchased 4 homes, which were valued at 437. He had 40,000 of investable capital. So because he retired 3 years later at $3,100, it gave him an extra $112,000, which gave him a total of $152,000. He ended up going back to Mark, if you remember this, Mark, and he purchased 2 more assets with you. And guess what? He retired at 65, making $61,28, which was an $1,100 more. And he thanks us till this day, doesn't he? And I want to go into the next one, and this one's actually the biggest, okay? And they're the mutual funds, and this is where it gets really tricky. So there are over 10,000 mutual funds that are out there, okay? These are the biggest: Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, TD. In fact, Fidelity, believe it or not, started back in 1954, owns about 30% of all retirement accounts, which is a staggering number. Not the value, just the actual retirement account. And I'm going to get into Vanguard a little bit later. So with that being said, this is where we talk about artificial restrictions, okay? And this is the truth that you most times don't ever hear. I'm not against 401ks. I'm going to put that out there transparently. Like I told you, it's important to diversify one's portfolio. You should have a portion of your IRA or 401k or any retirement account inside the market, but not all of it. Most people have all of it. But it's about one thing and one thing only. It's control. And it's control over your retirement funds. Because remember, they make money off of your money. All right? And it's all about the bottom dollar. You know, as a fiduciary, they're obligated by law to do what's, best for you. But at the end of the day, they have to earn a living. Okay? And I'll give you the perfect example of control. Let's just say, for example, Bill and Jane, a couple, married, walk inside their local brokerage firm, and they ask to speak to an investment advisor. And they find this great, and we'll use Memphis as the example. We found this great opportunity on 123 Green Street, and I would like to take a portion of my IRA or 401k and roll that over and buy or purchase the asset. Now, I'm going to tell you what they're going to say 9 times out of 10. They're not going to say, oh yeah, no problem, go ahead and do that. They're going to say that isn't part of your portfolio. That's what they're going to say. But we have other things that you could take a look at. So that's an artificial restriction. Instead of giving you the correct information, a educated, calculated, as I said, wow, Mitchell and Blake, but giving you that correct and educated, I would say, investment for your future to maximize your retirement account. They actually instead leave you misinformed, misguided, and it's a lost opportunity. Because remember, at the end of the day, they need to hold your retirement funds in order to capitalize, okay? And who's taking all of this risk? It's not them, it's you. So if the market, let's just say, let's talk about it. If the market is up, do you make money? Yes. Do they make money? Yes. But if the market is flat, especially where it's at right now, we're talking about this pandemic, and it's just literally going like this. In fact, the first quarter was the worst quarterly loss in the U.S. stock market's history at 27.7%. The worst loss ever. It bounced back, but I'll tell you one thing, I feel like it's inflated, and I think it's going to pop. And that's just my personal opinion, okay? But it's going to be doing this. Right. And this is the importance. This is the time to capitalize, or maybe consider an alternative asset. So if the market's down, flat or down, guess what? You're losing, they're winning. And the problem is if your money's tied up for 20 or 30 years because your 401ks with your current employer, there's nothing that you could do about it. In fact, we get a lot of people that call us all the time and say, I'm literally 58, 59 years old, and I'm approaching retirement, and they are scared. They're really scared right now. Should I consider retirement right now? And because the market's back to what it's at. I shrug my shoulders. At the end of the day, it's up to you. I can't give you that advice. That's completely up to you. It defeats the purpose of what self-directing is all about, which is teaching you about control. But if you want to dive into control and understanding what self-directing is all about, what is wrong with this picture? There's an estimated 60,000 IRA accounts. Okay, 60,000. Let's dive into this just a little bit deeper. 57.1 of those accounts, those IRA accounts, have $1 million or less. Well, 1.4 million accounts have $1 million or more. So my question to you is real simple. What are the 57.1 million people doing wrong that the 1.4 million people are doing right? And the answer is simple. They're self-directing it. They're self-directing the retirement funds. There's no way that you can, leaving the nest of the bulk of your retirement account inside the market, is you're going to ever exceed $1 million or more. You must invest your way to retirement. You cannot save your way to retirement. Right. You cannot be scared. You got to take some sort of risk. And if you want to really just take a look at this. This is really mind-boggling. Investors who earned an average of 4.67% in a mutual fund in the last 20 years versus 3.5% more if you just would have left it in the S&P 500. So my point is, why even bother leaving your funds in your 401k funds with a financial broker or a financial institution? It makes absolutely no sense. Okay? And I want to, honestly, full transparency, I want to be honest with you. This article was actually written in January of 2019. So that 4.67% does not include that fantastic year that we had last year. Also, that 4.67%, which actually brings me to my next topic, also includes the fees. Okay, that also does include the fees. And this is where actually I bring in John C. Bogle. And Mark, actually, you do know who John C. Bogle is, correct?
Of course, low-cost index funds for Vanguard.
He is the man who founded Vanguard. Exactly. He's known for actually two things. One, which you mentioned, which is the low low index mutual funds. And the second, by doing so, he basically got rid of the management fees, because there really wasn't any management fees. You just literally took a portion of your 401k or your IRA, and you put it inside this income, index mutual fund, which just followed the S&P 500. And he basically said, I am getting rid of the management fee, but it's a double-edged sword once again, okay? He's a very smart businessman, a savvy businessman. And I'll tell you why, because he's making money on the hidden fees. I'll say to John C. Bogle, thank you for getting rid of the management fee. A lot of companies still do have management fees, but it's the rest of the fees that you got to take a look at. The trading costs, the sales loads, the account fees, the marketing fees, God knows what fee. But at the end of the day, if you ever go talk to your financial broker or, somebody at, let's say, Vanguard, they'll tell you something like, these hidden fees are very minute. They're 0.015%, half a basis point, whatever the case may be. They still average to be somewhere around 2%, which actually brings me to my next case study with Maria. So Dennis Bliss was actually about 3 years ago at a symposium in Vegas, and there was a woman named Maria. Okay, Maria, once again, was the age of 62. She was ready for retirement. She actually had a really rough road. I actually had the opportunity to sit down with her for a good 30, 40 minutes. And she had about a little over, $600,000 in her 401k. But she did not really understand the hidden fees and how they work. So something that's unique, and most people don't know this about Dennis Bliss, president of our company, is he's actually an advisor for the Treasury Department. And one thing he actually always told me is the one department, in as messed up as Congress may be, the one department that really does care about the American people is the Treasury Department. And the reason why I tell you that is because, and the problem is they can't fight it, I'm sorry, and what they can't fight are the lobbyists. So when he goes down there, he says to me, Ramez, they don't pay millions, they pay billions of dollars to hide these fees. And I told Maria, as we sat down together, and she asked me to break it down for her. So I basically, let's look into this. If you just literally, once again, if you go download this on Google, you could go download a mutual fund calculator. You could also find this on the IRA Club's website. We are actually building out a whole list of different calculators, all geared towards retirement. And she said she put an average of $6,000, okay, for her future. She had an old 401k with $3,000 when she was a lot younger. I believe she was 25 years old. She rolled it over into the $3,000 into the current 401k that she had. She worked for the same company for 35 years. Did very well for herself, actually. Now, once again, she actually retired in 2018. So the 7.15% did not include the 2019, full transparency. But I talked to her, let's talk about this 2%. I told her, just so you understand, as your 401k grows, so does that 2%. You lose a third of your retirement funds due to these hidden fees that you'll never see on your actual statement.
Wow.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Cool.
I actually want to quickly go over this because when I say the $6,000 that she contributed, she's saying she was doing about 6%. So I'm so sorry, going back to this real quickly. If you take a look at this, the average person actually does contribute 6%, but that's not enough. They actually say you need to put at least 50% of your paycheck or your towards your retirement. You have to do that. So that is actually right on par where she was at. So I just need people to know that it's 4, 5, 6%. As you see, when they reach the ages of 55 or higher, now they're contributing more because they realize that, oh my God, I need to get, I don't have enough I can't make it. There's no way. I need to put more. The problem is it's too late because it's compound interest when you're thinking about your 401k. Remember, as yours grows, so does theirs. And this is where we broke down Maria's after the breakdown of the mutual fund fee. So I told her what she should have ended up with. If you're looking at the middle on the left side, if you're looking at the 951, that's what she should have, close to $1 million. That 2% cost her $346,000. Just that simple 2%. That's a third, exactly how I mentioned it to her. So she ended up with 605. But what was so great about Maria, because she was a smart woman, and this is where I kind of helped her and saved her, is at 62, what she wanted to do was start investing. Okay, but what her mistake was, she was going to break up that 605 in 2 years. So she was going to pull out half of that, at 300 and some change. But the problem is it puts her at the 32% tax bracket. So I said, instead of pulling out the 605, why don't you roll over the 605 into a self-directed IRA, traditional, it has to be traditional, correct? Because remember, 401ks and traditional IRAs are governed by the same set of rules and regulations. And I saved her that $193,000 for investment capital. She used that to buy another property because I told her, you're 62, you don't have to take a RMD, requirement minimum distribution, until 72 years old. So why would you even do that right now? And you could still take a distribution because you're over the age of 59 and a half. And that is exactly what she did. And that's what makes it so fantastic. And she actually now is making a little over, once again with social, she's making actually a little over 6,500. So I'm really happy for her. Once again, we're going to go over the types of IRAs, which I kind of went over with in the second or third slide, but the two most common kind of like where I want to go with this, the traditional and the Roth. And one of the questions that not only I get, but the entire IRA Club team gets is, if you had an option between the two, which one would you pick? And I'm always in favor of the Roth. And I say that because how would you like to get rid of this greedy SOB Uncle Sam? As I mentioned, the wealthiest people, the smart investors, this is the way to do it because you earn twice as much with your Roth IRA when you remove taxes. Remember, I told you, America has a progressive income tax. Taxes are only going to go up moving forward, especially right now, especially with what's going on with this pandemic.
Right.
If you go back and you just take a look at the Great Recession, okay, back in the 1930s, it's the same format. What did the government do? They started dumping money into the economy. Same thing that's going on right now. But what they didn't take into consideration was World War I and World War II. And if you go back right after World War II, taxes went as high as 92%. 92%. That is mind-boggling to me. Like, how do you make money? How do you survive?
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's just crazy. And that's where we're looking at today. Even after the Great Recession, taxes are on sale. That's the importance of why to consider a Roth. Of converting your traditional IRA or your old 401k into a Roth. Okay, and why would you want to consider a Roth? Pay taxes on the seed versus the tree. You get the fruits of your labor later on in life. Like I mentioned, taxes are going up. There are no penalties to do a Roth conversion. You don't have to do the entire conversion all in 1 year. You can break it up, but be wary. Talk to your CPA. Make sure you do your due diligence. Educate yourself on the market, what's going, not just the market, where taxes are going. And remember, the best thing about the Roth treatment is it's more beneficial, not just for yourself, but for your spouse, for your heirs. It's not just about taking care of you. Like when I passed away, I want to take care of my family, making sure that they're okay. They get all of those same benefits. And guess what? They don't have to wait until 59 and a half. They can start getting the fruits of your labor right away. So let's take a quick example of this, okay? Let's just talk about a 24-year investment, somewhere in your 20s and 30s, okay? And you start with a simple $25,000. Roll it over into a self-directed IRA, and you're just contributing not even the full $6,000. You're doing $5,000 a year, and you're earning 12% of returns, okay? Which is very, by the way, common in real estate. I mean, I see it all day, every day. But assuming
you're definitely correct. We've got our apartment syndication deals that have over 15% every year average cash on cash return, 15%.
Mark, this is one of the reasons why we work with Memphis. We see the numbers. So thank you for that, because you make my life a little bit easier. So we're going to just go simply, if you're looking at the left side at 22%. If you are in the 22% tax bracket, forgive me. And that's just assuming you're making over 85K a year. If you were to invest that $25,000, if you were to start year one up until year 24, you would end up with over $1 million. Okay? Versus if you just use your own personal funds. The advantage, the Roth IRA is just the greatest gift that the United States government ever gave us. And it's so underutilized. Only 3% of Americans use it. That's what's bothering me. At the end of the day, that's what really troubles me. Versus investing with your own funds. Now, let's go back and let's go at the 32% tax bracket, okay? And that's assuming, like, listen, if you're over the age of 50, I'm hoping to God you're striving to be at the 32% tax bracket. That means you're making over 163 a year. I mean, that's everyone's goal, I hope, okay? Take a look at when you invest with your personal funds versus investing inside a Roth IRA, a self-directed Roth IRA. $1 million versus you just lost over $600,000. But it gets worse, Mark. Hold on, check this out. What happens if you live in a state that has a state income tax? I IRA Club is located in Chicago, Illinois. I live in Chicago. I had a traditional IRA. I had an old 401k rolled over traditional. I converted it. But I just want to show people after the 423, you're ending up with 365. Versus, how about California? So where you were, if you would have been invested inside a Roth versus you investing with your own funds, you lost over $750,000. That is a mind-boggling number to me. That's the importance of using a Roth IRA. So I just like investors to sit back, process this, and understand that this is a much better route. And it's not just for yourself, it's also for your family. Keep that in the back of your mind. What can you invest in? Anything and anything you want that generates passive income or active income back into your in your IRA. I mean, you're talking about syndications, mobile homes, single family homes, loans, Airbnbs, vacant land. It's endless. You could do Christmas tree farms, windmills, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just invest in what you know best. That is the only piece of advice that I would give you. Okay, if you don't know anything about, let's say, for example, oil and gas, don't invest in oil and gas. If you know stuff about oil and gas, go ahead. If real estate is your niche, invest in real estate. Okay. Now, besides the fact that I get, or one of the biggest challenges for me is when people talk about retirement accounts and IRAs and 401ks, they traditionally think it's boring. Okay, that's number one. The second is, I'm too old for this. Really? When are you too old to get started or want tax-free income? Remember when I told you in one of the earlier slides in the beginning of the presentation that if you made it over the age of 65 in America, there's 57.7 million Americans that reach the age of 65 or greater?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you do not smoke, you do not drink, you work out, you're not crazy obese like myself, okay? The probability of you and your spouse living to 90 years or greater is 68%. 68%. 95, 32. So my question to you is, when is it too late? It's never too late. That's the point that I'm trying to make. This is another great tool, by the way. Partnering, maximizing, accelerating, allowing you the opportunity to invest in bigger deals. But let's just use simple math over here. Let's just say there's a house, okay, listed at 100,000. Rental income's 1,000, assuming it's the 1% rule. You have, John has 70,000 in his IRA, and his spouse Jill has 30, okay? You could partner your IRAs to purchase that house. There's only just one set of rules. Percentage in, percentage out, that's it. So if he invested 70K at 70% of the value of the home, he gets $700 back. Versus his spouse, she gets 300. But how about accelerating with your family, getting your kids involved? We actually have minor accounts. We can talk about those later. If you ever wanted to give us a call, get your kids involved with partnering. Simple math again, 50, 30, 10, and 10. Your kids receive 10% returns. Now, most people do not know this. Partnering, or the ability to partner with yourself, that's huge. Let's just say in my bank account, I have 30,000, and my old 401k, I rolled it over into an IRA, had 70,000. You could partner with yourself. The only difference is that $700 is going to go back into your IRA, and that 300 is going to come back to me, and that 300 is taxable. That's the only difference. The process, how does it work? People think it's so complicated, it's confusing, it's frustrating. It's not. It is so easy. All you need is your name, address, date of birth, and all you have to do is provide me a government-issued ID, passport, driver's license. Doesn't matter. It's open. Takes 8 minutes, and we actually do all the work for you. All you have to do is sign that. Okay. And how do you fund your IRA, your self-directed IRA? There's literally 3 ways. There's an IRA to IRA transfer. Your old 401k with your old employer. Okay, you could roll that over into a self-directed IRA, or personal contribution. So that's up to $6,000 unless you're over the age of 50. You can contribute $7,000. And lastly, once your account is funded, invest. All we ask, do your due diligence. That's it. Take a calculated, educated risk. How much does this cost? I just showed you to the left side, all right? Mutual funds, annuities. They have the highest percentages. They have the highest fees. They're always commission-based, okay? They'll cost you tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars versus a low flat fee. $175 for an annual membership and $165 per asset if it is real estate based. Okay,
is that per asset per year or just per asset done?
Per asset per year.
Perfect. Yeah,
Per
not
asset.
bad at all. Not bad at all.
I mean, you're talking about $340 versus I talked about that 2 or 3%. Let's just say, for example, if you had $100,000 with Fidelity and the market's still going down, they're still taking their 2 to 3%.
Exactly.
Versus with $340, okay, and that's assuming it's real estate based.
Great value, yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why not use those hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest versus leaving it in the market where I keep, reiterating, telling people there's a lot of ups and downs right now. This is the time to consider it or even do it or think about it. So that's the true value. And also keep in mind, the IRA Club is a low, like I said, a low fee base. So we don't. A lot of other self-directed IRA custodians will charge you on the assets and the fund. So, if with us, like I said, it's just a flat fee. I don't care if there's 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, or $1 million. It's just that one flat fee. We don't charge you on the total value. So keep that in mind. Now, this is the gift. So if you're here till the end, okay, we're going to offer this to all Memphis investors. We call it the IRA Club Investors Kit, and I think this is such a great value. And the reason why that it is we do this step-by-step video series. Okay, we literally take you through the entire process from choosing the right custodian to the self-directed IRA, as I gave you a great explanation, but I don't have enough time to go into all these tips, tricks, and strategies. But it's literally about a 15 video series that will lead you all the way into the actual closing process and walking you through buying real estate, okay? And we do this through something called the white glove experience, okay? What's so great and unique and what I love about IRA Club is we're not a call center. Keep that on the back of your mind. I think this is fantastic. You get your own IRA Club specialist walking you through the entire process. Not only the videos, but we're there to help you. But once you've done and you've completed the video series, we understand. Don't panic. You're gonna have a bunch of questions. We're gonna set up and give you a 15-minute Q&A consultation. Ask us all questions. But at that point, at the end of the consultation, we're gonna give you a free IRA account. Because at the end of the day, we want to practice what we preach. All right. We want you to think about your future. Think about your family's futures. I think there's another added bonus. Dennis Blitz's new ebook. It just came out last month. Money Making Ideas with Your IRA and 401k. Who is Dennis Blitz? He is the founder and president of the IRA Club. Some of his greatest achievements are the CEO and founder of the Aurora Publishing Company. He's a consultant for the Washington Post. Most people also don't know about this about him. He is the author of 12 books on security regulations and tax laws. You would think he knows what he's talking about that. Like I mentioned, an advisor for the Treasury Department, and also wrote the tax and the test for your Series 3, 6, and 7. So if you are a fiduciary, you basically have to go through this man to become licensed. So just a little bit of things about Dennis Blitz. This is the IRA Club executive team. It's all of us straight across the way of our respective departments. And some of our credentials, I did mention some of them. We've been around for 13 years. We fully administrated 10,000 and more accounts. We managed just under $1 billion in assets. Most importantly, remember this, your funds are FDIC insured. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. But why us? Why do people always consider us? Number one, there are no contracts with us. If you're unhappy or unsatisfied, roll your money out somewhere else. We're not mad at you, but usually when people roll over, they're happy to be with us and they don't go anywhere. We have a qualified IRA Club specialist. Like I said, we walk you step by step. We have low flat fees. We're educators. Remember that. More than anything, we're educators. You can ask us any question you want. We want you to take back control of your future, your retirement funds. We want you to do that by diversifying your portfolio. Okay? Capitalize on tax-free gains and growth. One piece of advice: invest in what you know and understand. That's it. Mark, I want to thank you. Thank the Memphis team. If you have any questions, there's our general information. I will also provide you. Mark, as I mentioned, I'll give you a template direct call to action landing page. If you guys need anything else from this point, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out.
Hey, appreciate it. Great job. I mean, just a few notes here. I love what you said about pay taxes on the seed, not the tree, and
Yeah.
just seeing the impact on that from a California investor, because I'm sure the majority of you right now are sitting at home in California, because the majority of our investors are in California. And that difference was just mind boggling, about a $700,000 difference. What do you want, a million in your account or 300,000? Take your
And
pick.
that it's not even just that. It's just, think about that, 700,000 of investable capital that you just lost, that you just gave away back to our government.
Right, because you were doing it wrong. Yeah, exactly. You're just doing, yeah. All you need to do is call you 123, and you can have that capital back.
One simple form. Takes minutes to fill out.
Yeah.
Minutes.
And for all you out there, this is also something that here at Memphis Investment Properties, we're all doing personally. That's why we wanted to have Ramez to come on to educate you more in detail of what we're doing. So, you know, we have these types of accounts. We're using them to invest in real estate in Memphis, whether that's single family homes or our apartment syndications. So this is something that we're actively doing, and it's working out very well for us. So that's why we wanted to just share this knowledge and experience with you guys. So hope you found a lot of value in it. Please reach out to Ramez or myself if you would like his contact information. But we really appreciate you guys, and that's all we have for you today.
Thank you. All right, guys, signing out.
Thanks, everyone.